The story of Morrowind reflects the ancient creation of religiosity. For those who don't know, Morrowind is now the mythical game that came before not just Skyrim, but also Oblivion. The game will set you out on a journey of a newly released prisoner with unsettling visions and promptly hurled into the battle on Morrowind between church and state as you ascend into literal godhood and turned into nothing short of a messiah in the eyes of the local population. This story is quite unique actually, and I'll talk about why it can only be properly told within a game. No movie or television show could possibly mimic the message left behind by Morrowind's main quest. The Empire's spies, known as the Blades, hurl you against a bulwark of faith. A shadowy group called Dissident Priests has created a fertile ground of rebellion against the temple's rigid faith. Interestingly enough, in the game you can join the temple's faction and do their pilgrimage and serve as a member. All as a side quest of course, but you learn the politics and fundamentalisms of the faith quite well. You'll begin your quest simply by investigating and learning about the prophecy of the Nerevarine that the temple so vigilantly deny any validity to and even prosecute those who take it seriously. Not only do you learn about the prophecy that is supposed to foreshadow the reincarnation of a long-dead dark elf warlord, you also learn about those that believe and the different factions that surround the politics of the faith, such as the dissident priests. It gets a bit complicated, but is part of the rich and tasteful stew that is Morrowind's story and setting. You talk to all kinds of people to investigate this prophecy. Booksellers, priests, ashlanders, historians, envas. And all this investigation is at the behest of one alpha wolf, Caius Cusades, the Emperor's grand spymaster in all of Vardenfell. This man's house is a mess and doesn't even try to hide his drugs from you. Frankly, I think he needs to clean his dragon and slay his room. But even if his true rank within the Empire's Blades is a mystery to you at this point, his resourcefulness is a glimmering diamond in the dark that you stumble in on the continent of Morrowind. But returning from one of your missions, where you met the former Ashlanders, in other words, an ex-nomadic native dark elf, investigating the origins of the prophecy, Caius Cusades reveals to you why you were let out of prison and sent to this faraway land. It is nothing short of the Emperor himself believing that you are the reincarnation of Nerevar, the Dark Elf warlord, who is to fulfill the prophecy. Caius himself even admits that at first he thought they were supposed to create a puppet who would have the veneer of a reincarnation as opposed to the real thing. But as he states, "But now I don't know what to believe in regards to your place in the prophecy." This is obviously hinting at him now believing you are the reincarnate. But all you have done up until this point has been nothing but mundane. Nothing warrants anyone having to believe the prophecy, let alone that you will be the one to fulfill it. But his resourcefulness aside, the guy is a scum addict, and the Emperor told him to take it super serious. And you were a person who fit the prophecy's initial condition, which is a prisoner born on a certain day to uncertain parents. For those of you who are interested in statistics, you'll realize that this only means that every orphan born on a certain day, with a certain birth sign actually, fits the condition. You have also learned that there are many more incarnates of Nerevar that have been attempted and failed to fulfill the prophecy. In other words, false incarnates. But in either case, you follow the Grand Spy Master's instruction and go to see what the nomadic tribes think about you and the claim of you being their messiah. The nomadic tribes, or Ashlanders as they are mostly called, are people who orally carry the prophecy through generations. There's also some vision-seeing tradition within their tribes, but the orally carried word is how they transmit the meme of the Nerevarine down the ages. When you appear, they meet you with a bulwark of skepticism. You manage to convince every Ashland tribe that you are, in fact, the long-dead warlord Nerevar. How, you wonder? By clearing a ruin of cultists so that one tribe can move in there? By giving gifts and ridding the tribe of a local vampire nuisance? By getting one guy a wife? In one of the tribes, there were these guys who were straight up never going to believe you. So you had to kill them and replace their leaders with someone who would believe you. But the first tribe you convince is different from the rest, at least in process. And that process makes a claim about your reincarnation. You're challenged to discover and retrieve a ring called Moon and Star. It is said that this ring is only able to be worn by the reincarnate of Nerevar. It kills everyone else who tries to take it. You go and pick it up. Then Azura, the Daedric prince, gives you a vision and reveals the purpose and so on and so forth and etc. etc. A likely explanation here is that Azura just struck down everyone else who tried to take it. You also meet some ghosts there who are failed incarnates of the prophecy. Not false, but failed. This is unlike some of the quests that you deal with in the temple, where you had to tell a false incarnate that no, it's not him, accept it or die, which is how seriously the temple deals with it. But anyways, some of the ghosts didn't even try to fulfill the prophecy and still appear to you and claim that they are a failed incarnate. Which, it seems believable. They shouldn't be there otherwise. Funny thing is, these ghosts seem to have their own souls, not sharing one with you. That doesn't exactly support the claim that you are an actual reincarnation, seeing as they are failed reincarnations and not false ones. You're just someone who fits the appearance. But there is one more supernatural claim in the prophecy. You're supposed to be immortal and immune to disease. This part is fulfilled by you contracting a disease that has the upside of rendering you immune to aging and disease, and the downside of turning you into a lame corpus beast. But a several thousand-years-old wizard, who has worked with the disease for a long time, cures you of the latter part of the symptoms, with a potion. Very extraordinary. And to my recollection, that is the last of the supernatural claims of the prophecy. The rest of the story is politics and heroic deeds of destroying the antagonist Dagothur. I think we should look at the strongest key arguments for why the protagonist would be the Nerevarine. Azura, Vivek, Dagothr, and Almalexia all call you the one true Nerevarine. So one Daedric prince, basically a demigod, and 3 dark elves turned gods, call you Nerevar, the incarnate. That's actually reason enough to be swayed. These are 3 previous friends of the original Nerevar, and Asura herself that seems to have set this prophecy in motion. Those are not easy to explain away, as to say it's mundane. But it's just more claims about you being the actual reincarnation, with the only support being their authority. Secondly, it fails to explain the ghosts of the past. If they are simply apparitions, or previous memories, or something like that, you need to add extra layers of complexity to the story, such as why some of them didn't even bother with the prophecy. And that must make the reincarnate of Occam go crazy with the razor. Thirdly, Occam's razor itself applied to Asura and her prophecy of the Nerevarine. Why would she drag a soul of Nerevar into this world over and over to attempt to fulfill the prophecy? There's clearly no guarantee that she'll succeed. So why would she go through the extra trouble when she could expand her manpower by keeping the prophecy vague and thereby slice out a chunk of the world's population that could fit the prophecy? It's just extra layers of complexity that's not needed in order to achieve her goal. To me, it just seems like you're one of the many pawns that's been moving across a chessboard until one of them made it and turned into a queen. By that time, not one of the players around the chessboard would be wise to treat the now prophecy-clad queen as a regular pawn, despite that being the fact. Which leads me to an interesting realization, and the intentional, or perhaps unintentional, brilliance of Morrowind's story. You need not take anything on faith in order to fulfill the prophecy. You might be shaken a bit by the dreams and visions, by picking up moon and star, but nothing suggests that you actually have the soul of Nerevar. Quite the opposite. You clearly don't share a soul with the other attempts at fulfilling the prophecy, and they were not false incarnates. It all just seems like a plot by a Daedric prince to finally dethrone the false gods of the temple, and you are one of Asura's puppets whom she used. Everything that happens in the game is supported by the lore without the act of reincarnation, and the explanation seems to fit Occam's razor. Why would Asura bother to drag a soul into life again, then go ahead with her plot? And this intertwined with the brilliance of the story, which cannot be told in a movie. The protagonist, which is you, can choose to believe the prophecy or not. In a movie, we'd be forced to give the protagonist some sort of opinion on the matter. But due to Morrowind's simplistic dialogue system, where you just click on topics and inject your own fantasy about how it was asked, there is no objective truth to what the protagonist thinks about the faith. Everyone in the game certainly acts like they believe you are the Nerevarine, but the way they stack the events and deeds you accomplished are blown off course from the mundane and into the divine. In Morrowind, we get to witness the birth of the Messiah myth and experience firsthand how faith warps reasonable explanation into false worship. It encompasses the archetypical rebirth for the protagonist from prisoner to literal Messiah. But the larger story is the tragedy in that reason was betrayed by faith. I've been Frank. Farewell.